DeAndre Ayton is a Portland Trailblazer. It's kind of weird because we've been talking about DeAndre Ayton for a while now. A lot of Blazer fans have been begging for Ayton to make his way to the Blazers, and he's finally here. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad of DeAndre Ayton. Yesterday, I dropped a video on Robert Williams III, and today I'm dropping a video on the other center that the Blazers acquired this offseason. The Blazers sent out Jusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson to get DeAndre Ayton, and so far I've analyzed that trade separately from the entire Damian Lillard trade. The Blazers had been negotiating this deal since Summer League, and Phoenix wasn't even kept in the loop as to the other player they'd be receiving back in a three-team trade for Damian Lillard. That, of course, ended up being Grayson Allen, but Joe Cronin effectively made this deal happen separately from the Damian Lillard trade. And this trade, I think, is a true win for the Portland Trailblazers, despite some of my reservations and concerns about DeAndre Ayton. So DeAndre Ayton comes into Portland with something to prove. There was some obvious discontent with Ayton in Phoenix. He and head coach Monty Williams clashed, and it became clear that Ayton was unhappy with his role in Phoenix. He got paid like a star. Indiana gave him a max offer sheet in the offseason of 2022, which the Suns ultimately matched. But it seemed like Phoenix never truly wanted Ayton on that contract. They didn't utilize him like a star. He put up some solid numbers, but it was mostly within the flow of their offense. There wasn't many designed looks for Ayton, and it culminated in this Ayton trade, where Matt Ishbia, James Jones, and company over there in Phoenix decided that they would rather have some smaller contracts with multiple role players. It'll be easier to trade those contracts out and stay under the super tax, and they also feel like Jusuf Nurkic will be better suited for the role that DeAndre Ayton was in. And in a vacuum, Nurkic is not a better player. Even as a big Nurkic fan, I wouldn't make that argument. However, given the role that the Phoenix Suns needed their starting center to play, I think Nurkic might be a better player for their team in that situation. Because when you got Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, you don't necessarily need a center that's giving you 18 points per game. You need a center that is setting really good screens, which Nurkic does, making the right play out of the short roll when those guards get trapped, and a big that rebounds the ball. Those are the areas where Nurkic is better than Ayton. Nurkic also has developed a three-point shot, which Ayton has yet to do. But on the flip side, Ayton is a better defender, a better rim protector, and better switched out onto guards. He can run the floor better than Nurkic can, which should fit well in an up-tempo offense, which I expect the Blazers to run this season. He's a better lob target, and I think Ayton has more upside creating his own shot. It's only been in very few flashes, however, that is going to be the key for Ayton to develop in order to become a true star-level big man. Ayton can hit a pull-up mid-range jumper, and a fadeaway out of the post. That's kind of been his bread and butter for a long time now. But I think the key for Ayton will be to see if he can stretch his game out to the three-point line, and then if he can do that, can he attack closeouts and drive the lane and make the right play, whether it's attacking the rim and finishing strong, or dishing the ball off. We saw some of that when Ayton played for the Bahamas as the World Cup happened this past offseason. However, those flashes weren't against NBA caliber players. Ayton had really good performances against Cuba in countries like that. But it still showcased some of the flashes where, maybe in the most optimistic world, Ayton could be a guy that is a true star-level threat. As far as stretching out his game to three, I think the number one thing holding DeAndre Ayton back is how flat his shot is. And this just comes down to physics, basically. When you're throwing the ball flatter at the rim, it has less of a target to go through the rim. If you're dropping it straight down, it has more of an area where it can go in order to go through the basket. When it's flat, it has less. However, you don't want to shoot the ball straight up because it's really hard to be accurate when you're shooting the ball with a ton of arc because that's further for the ball to travel. So there is usually an optimum arc and an optimum angle for the ball to enter the rim at. If you've ever been to Shoot 360 and shot around there, you'll know that they have machines that actually calculate that and give you feedback on the angle that you're shooting the ball at the rim at. The problem is for Ayton, from three, it's way too low. And from that distance, the ball has to travel extremely fast in order to get to the rim on a line drive. That is why Ayton is able to hit mid-range shots as well as he does, but has struggled stretching his shot out to three. He also doesn't have a consistent base. He has a split-legged landing on a lot of threes, turns his hips on a lot of threes, and when you have an inconsistent base, that'll give you problems the further out you shoot the ball. So that is how you have a big that has great touch from mid-range and can hit free throws, but can't seem to stretch it out to the three-point line in an NBA where even guys like Brook Lopez and Jusuf Nurkic have been able to stretch their games out behind the arc. DeAndre Ayton is actually kind of the exception in terms of a big with touch and skill that hasn't really figured that out yet. But given his touch and skill, I still have hope that even though he shoots the ball flat, Ayton might be able to develop into a league average three-point shooter. Because he's quick, he can kind of handle the ball for his size. I just don't think he was given a bunch of responsibility. This season, I want Ayton to shoot threes with confidence, even if he's not shooting a great percentage. Because in my opinion, this should be a developmental season for the Portland Trail Blazers, and that means developing Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, and Shaedon Sharpe to the best of their ability. But also seeing if DeAndre Ayton can take that step to stardom, and some of that might mean having a coach who lets him shoot threes, or even encourages him to shoot threes, because when Ayton played in Phoenix, a lot of times when he was catching the ball at the top of the arc, he was just looking to hand it off, just like you'd see any non-shooting big. And it was kind of weird for a big with his skill level to be doing that. Given his discourse with Monty Williams and the discontent in that relationship, I wonder if Williams didn't want Ayton shooting threes. It makes sense when you have a lot of offensive talent and a really good offense. They didn't need to rely on Ayton to shoot threes by any means. And as a shooter, confidence is key in terms of knocking down shots. If you're out there on the court questioning whether a coach wants you to shoot a shot or not from behind the arc, you're probably not going to shoot that well. You're going to hesitate, you're going to pass up some threes, and then when you do pull them, you have that thought in the back of your head that maybe you shouldn't be shooting that shot. So I want Ayton encouraged to shoot threes. I want the coaching staff to have confidence in Ayton shooting threes, just to see if that confidence can be transferred to Ayton himself and if he can have confidence shooting that shot. If so, what percentage does he shoot if he's shooting 2 to 3 open three-point shots a game? That's something I want to figure out. It might not be good, but it'll be a good thing to find out. And if it is good enough, then maybe he can attack off the dribble when guys close out on him. And if he can do that, then maybe he's a star caliber big man. I think that is the recipe for unlocking DeAndre Ayton as a star caliber big. I don't want him just floating beyond the three-point line at all times because he is athletic, he can catch a lob, he can finish on the inside. So there is a good balance here. But when trying to figure out where Ayton could take that star level leap this season, how many stars in the league today can't create their own shot from the perimeter and don't hit threes? I don't think there's a single star caliber player that can't do either of those things unless you're talking about a Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo, and both those guys are elite defenders, probably top 3 or 4 defenders in the league, and they're stars mostly because of their defense. Bam is good offensively, but if he was not a good defensive big, he would not be considered a star. So with all that being said, I think being able to hit threes is going to be key for DeAndre Ayton to take that step to stardom. If not, he might be able to improve by getting fed in the post here or there. Maybe he can be a LaMarcus Aldridge style big man where he's getting 22, maybe even 23 points per game on a lot of post-ups and fed touches. However, even LaMarcus Aldridge wasn't the most efficient player or the most efficient scorer with the number of fadeaway mid-range shots he shot, and even LaMarcus Aldridge stretched his game out to 3. Now, I do want to touch on the interior game for DeAndre Ayton. He finishes really well around the rim. However, he does have a lot of moments where it seems like he could throw it down on someone, and he tries to finger roll shots and misses them. He does have an element of finesse to his finishing, especially when he's not right at the rim, that has driven some Phoenix Suns fans crazy in the past. That, of course, was a problem with Jusuf Nurkic, but Jusuf Nurkic was much more ground-bound, and it was a little bit more understandable for me in situations where Nurkic didn't dunk the ball, because I felt like a lot of times when Blazer fans were screaming at Nurk to dunk the ball, he physically couldn't because he's not that level of athlete. He is not DeAndre Ayton athletically. For me, it'd be a little bit more frustrating to have a big who's athletic enough to throw it down on guys that decides not to, and that was a critique of DeAndre Ayton. Sure, he dunks the ball more and he finishes better at the rim. However, I do think there is room for improvement there, and I do think Ayton could be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more focused on dominating around the rim. I also think Ayton's mid-range game is very good for a big man. I do think he relies on it a little bit too much. I feel like there's times where he could get all the way to the rim and finish strong, and he stops around 10 to 15 feet and shoots a pull-up mid-range jumper. He can hit it, but he's more efficient around the rim. And passing up clear opportunities to get to the rim for mid-range shots is ultimately not a good thing, even if those mid-range shots are efficient for mid-range shots. And that's the thing with rim finishing. Part of it is the percentage you shoot at the rim, but part of it is making a clear and conscious effort to try and get to the rim when you can. Because if you're only taking wide open shots or wide open dunks at the rim, you're going to shoot a great percentage. But if you're trying to force things there, you might shoot a little bit worse, but if you're still shooting 62, 63% from two, that's better than shooting 50% from the mid-range. So I think Ayton's shot diet is something that we'll be examining all season long. Is he getting to the rim? How many shots is he shooting at the rim? And how much is he settling for mid-range shots when he could maybe get to the rim? Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't shoot mid-range shots. Sometimes that's the shot that's there, and that's the best available opportunity, and he's definitely good enough to take those shots. I just don't want Ayton passing up opportunities to get to the rim and maybe throw it down on someone for finesse finger rolls or 10-foot floaters or 15-foot mid-rangers. I think it should be get to the rim first, and then if that's not there, then shoot those mid-ranges, and that should be the mindset going into the season offensively for Ayton. But I think he's going to have a great opportunity getting force-fed on lobs from Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons. Hopefully he can take a jump with his lob throwing, and I also think running the floor, Ayton will get fed a lot as well, and I think he fits well in an up-tempo offense. I think he can outrun most big men down the floor. He's pretty quick for his size. And then running pick and roll with Scoot Henderson and Simons, I think Ayton will get a lot of good looks in that as well. On the short roll, that's where I expect Ayton to take a lot of mid-range shots, and I think that will be the main opportunity to examine his shot diet, whether he's being aggressive attacking the rim or settling for mid-rangers. And that's just going to be based on where the big man is defending the pick and roll. Is he sitting in the paint? That's when the mid-range makes more sense. Is he playing up at the level of the screen, and does Ayton have a step on him on the roll? That's when Ayton needs to attack and throw it down. On the defensive end, Ayton's a good defender. However, I think there's a lot of nuances to being a defensive big man that I need to see Ayton play game in, game out, and really focus on his defense in order to get a true feel for. Some of those nuances involve playing the pick and roll, only switching when you have to. Of course, some of that is scheme dependent, so it's kind of hard to judge. And then around the rim, is he getting out of position because he's chasing blocks that aren't there? Is he making the right rotation in a timely manner? Team defense is actually quite hard to analyze, and we try our best to break that down on post-game shows. So I don't really have many thoughts on Ayton's defense right now. It's nice having more of a shot blocker around the rim. I think it'll allow Portland perimeter defenders to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of trying to force turnovers, whether it's in the passing lanes or on the ball. I think that will be key for the Blazers this year too, as they look to get out and run more. And Ayton can switch as well. He can defend on the perimeter, so it should allow the Blazers to be a little bit more versatile in some of the things they run. I think Ayton will be good defending up at the point of screens. I think he can also play some drop. I think physically he's very schematically versatile. In the end, it just comes down to executing and being in the perfect spot and some of those nuances for a defensive big. Rebounding-wise, Ayton is solid, but not great. His motor is a little bit inconsistent on the boards. Of course, there's that classic clip of him watching Jokic get like 3 offensive rebounds in a row in the playoffs while Ayton just stands out of bounds on the baseline. I do think Ayton has room for improvement rebounding, and it just comes down to going after every ball, like wanting that ball more than the other guy, having that Josh Hart type of mindset chasing down these rebounds, because with his athleticism and size, he should dominate the boards. But with a lot of big men in the NBA, he could do a better job consistently boxing out and then just pursuing the ball. And he'll probably need to, because he has Jeremy Grant next to him, who's not a good rebounder for a power forward. So anyway, those are my thoughts on DeAndre Ayton. Let me know what you think of him down in the comment section below. What are your expectations for him? I'm very curious to read your thoughts on the Blazers' newest big man. And with that being said, I'm out of here. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.